I became involved recently with Marsha Lazareva's case. I am embarrassed to say I didn't really know much about it until recently, but it took me little to no time to quickly and profoundly recognize the deep miscarriage of justice that it represents. Marsha's case is at its root a humanitarian issue. It is, we're talking about a mother of a son she can't care for properly, and that we're talking about a son who's been denied a mother. We're talking about a daughter who can't take care of her ill mother. We're talking about somebody who has spent 470 days in unthinkable conditions for a crime that they clearly did not commit, and was denied her most basic human rights, which is, to start, the access to a fair and impartial judiciary. It's at the standard of, it's so clear that so many of her human rights were denied her. And I think that morality and international human rights, and international human law, and morality, and as well as just common judgment, moral judgment speaks to, supports that there was a major miscarriage of justice here with her, and the fact that there are certain people involved in her case. In particular, what caught my eye is she, as a woman, occupying a space that is not typically filled by women in that area. We're talking about a powerful woman who's been successful in business, a Russian woman with very strong, legitimate American ties, educated, successful businesswoman, working in a field almost dominated entirely by men in that region. And what that really means, first of all, not just on a women's rights, not from just a women's rights perspective, but from a human rights perspective. It just so happens, though, that there are men involved in her case. In particular, someone who was charged with forging the documents, the only thing that was actually cited by the court there as evidence, and that was adequate or successfully used against her. And in this case, this man was found guilty for forgery of those documents, the evidence used to convict her. And in particular, this man, even though he was convicted, was released on bail, and that serves as a stark contrast to the way that the judicial system and the press treat really her in contrast. It's just really absurd. I mean, she had in effect, no bail set. It was an amount that is akin to having no real bail, and despite the fact that she was not a flight risk, she had a son there. There was a travel ban based on her. Despite all that, she was not given due process at any step of the way, and then she wasn't even given the ability to leave once she met that bail. It has taken an international community and some odd $36 million in American dollars to release her, and that was just very recently. Yet her male counterpart, convicted criminal, faced a very different fate in terms of how the hand of justice dealt with him. And I think that is interesting to me and elucidates a dynamic that we all know and recognize, but is so very rarely played out in such a clear example. And so Marsha's case to me is incredibly compelling and saddening, and I think that Kuwait, a country with whom the United States in particular has had long-standing diplomatic relations, bilateral conversations and diplomatic relations, relationship, it's surprising to me that they would seemingly risk international support and a relationship with the United States in order to be involved in comparatively petty business, business disputes, which is what this appears to be, is a political and business dispute that unfairly led to her arbitrary detention.